Welcome to Kodak's History of Video Games. My name's Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week, Mike is going to take us on a journey back in time, because every episode of this show is a journey back in time. It's a history podcast.
That's right.
Yeah. This week, we're going to talk about a forgotten game called Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Mike, is this a game you played when you were younger, right?
No. And it's kind of, this is a really random choice of mine this week. And I bought it on a sale probably like 6 months ago, meaning to do it for the podcast. But there's another reason that I thought of this a while back, but we'll get to that later. The point is, I've been playing Dark Messiah of Might and Magic most of the week. I haven't beaten the game. I'll explain that also later, but I'm very happy to talk about this game today. It's very fun. So
you spent a lot of time
with
it.
Facts. I did spend a lot of time with it. Kind of jumped around, and I'll explain what happened later. So the Arkane Studios is the developer. This is an early Arkane game. This is actually their second game as Arkane Studios. The publisher is Ubisoft. We'll get into that drama a little bit later. There's 2 releases of this game. The first release was on PC in October 24th, 2006 is the date for North America on PC. Really, that's October 2006 is pretty much worldwide total.
Gotcha.
Some random dates in there.
Is Arkane Studios, they're the ones that did the Dishonored series, right? And Prey and oh wow,
yeah,
okay.
It's getting a little we're talking about it. So here we go. Okay. There's also a release on Xbox 360 that came out February 12th, 2008 called Dark Messiah of Might and Magic Elements. And this kind of goes right into the next best way to play part of Grime Facts. I would avoid the Xbox 360 version of this game. You would want to play this on PC. All right. Okay. That's what I'm going to push to everyone here is you want to play this on PC. Number of copies sold. I couldn't find any. I just couldn't find it. Sorry, team. I tried to find it in different places. I had a hard time. It is what it is. The gameplay or genre style is a first-person action role-playing game, but it is linear. It is not open world. It is just first-person action RPG. Average time to complete the single-player story. Main story is 10.5 hours. Main plus extra is 13.5 hours. Completionist is 17.5 hours. Metacritic score for PC, it got a 72 out of 100, so not bad. But the Xbox 360 version got a 52 out of 100, which is an F, right? If we're doing off the grading scale, it's not very good.
Yeah, that tells me that there's probably some technical issues with this game that make it hard to play on the Xbox 360.
There actually are not technical issues as far as I know, but there is a big issue, and I'm excited to talk about it. Okay, because you know me, I just love dogging on a game here, and we have a very good reason to after playing the PC version. So, gameplay wise, I've played half of this game, but not necessarily in order. So here comes the fun story. I was on the road for comedy this weekend, and I thought I could just beat the game in my hotel room, right? Great. Something to do in the hotel room. Good to beat the game. Unfortunately, I neglected to remember old games like this from 2006 do not use Steam Cloud Save. So I could not bring my save game just automatically over. I would have had to manually transfer it on a USB drive to my laptop, and I completely didn't do that. I forgot. So instead, since this game is on the source engine, I used console commands to kind of jump to where I was. Now, I jumped to where I was, and I played a little bit extra of the same thing over again, right? And then I got to a particular segment on the quest in Chapter 5 where you have to put the crystal, the MacGuffin, it's this crystal, into a slot. It wouldn't work because I jumped ahead and I didn't have the crystal. Oh, you hadn't
picked up the crystal yet?
So that didn't work. So then I had to jump again, and the next segment forward was actually in the middle of Chapter 7, not Chapter 6, like the console command said it was. So then I ended up playing Chapters 1 through 4, almost all of 5, and then some of Chapter 6 and all of Chapter 7 until I got to Chapter 8. And then I stopped at Chapter 8, and there's 10 chapters. So I've played a good chunk of the game. I haven't beaten the game, which is upsetting because I really wanted to beat it. But now that I'm home, I'm going to go back to my legitimate save and just play through the game and try to beat it in my own time. Because I do enjoy this game. Shocking, I know. I do enjoy this game, but it's fun. It's a fun game.
You've played it a couple times now, it seems.
I really have. I've played it a lot. So I also used console cheats when I was in the hotel to give myself items because I was just having fun. And it really felt like a sandbox game. And in that sense, I had a really good time. So that might be my suggestion. If you want to play this game, play it legitimate, but then just turn on the console mode cheats. It's really funny to give yourself like the best sword in the game and just go wallop around and give yourself like unlimited mana and all that stuff. But the game is a first-person action game that I think could closest be compared to Oblivion or Skyrim, but it's linear. It is not open world. There are levels and chapters that you go through. The big mechanic of this game is because it's on the Source engine, you can take full advantage of all the physics in this game to like throw objects, kick people into spikes, break support beams to drop things on people. And that is the funnest part of this game and the funniest part of this game, because why would you kill someone with all these cool magic and spells and stuff when I can just use the environment to kind of slapstick comedy my way through this fantasy game, which is what I did. You can actually kick orcs off a cliff in chapter 5, so you don't even have to fight them. You just kick them off the cliff. You can also, like, there's spiky walls everywhere in the game. And there's actually, we're going to talk about this in development. That was actually like a conscious choice to add spike walls everywhere. So you could just constantly kick enemies into them. So most of the time what I did is I just kind of led enemies into where the walls are so I could kick them into them. I barely used like my sword or spells or anything. The actual combat in the game is fairly basic. Like you could swing differently. There's like you hold it down for a strong attack. There's light attacks. It's based on what direction you're moving. You can block attacks. You can parry. You can kick them like to break their stance too, instead of just kicking them into objects. There is an adrenaline mechanic for fighting where if you land a certain number of hits on an enemy, your screen kind of goes yellow and it's like your next heavy attack just does like a powerful execution on enemies, which is really cool. It's also really gory, but that's the nature of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you level that up, actually, you can do that twice in a row. So your bars fill up and then you can do like 2 heavy executions. So if you're like facing multiple enemies, it's kind of fun to like break it and just do everything. The magic in the game is really fun. And I can tell you from experience that the charm spell and the heal spells are absolutely broken. And if you're trying to play this game legitimately, that would be my suggestion. Unlock charm and unlock heal, because then you can just charm enemies so they fight for you for a brief moment of time. Heal yourself with mana. You never have to think about healing potions. And there's way more mana potions than healing potions lying around, it seems like. So you can just spend your time charming people, healing yourself with your mana spells, and then just trying to get people into positions to kick them into spiky walls. That's pretty much the strategy I used in this game. Other than that, though, the magic is actually really fun. Like, you get high enough in the skill tree, your magic mana just regenerates. And it's a pretty fast regen, so you're pretty much just like a DPS machine with all these spells. There's also really silly trap spells, too, like ice traps and fire traps. And the ice traps are notable because when you put them on the ground, characters will, like, slide. Enemies will. So if you put an ice trap by a cliff, characters will just run at you and slide down across the cliff and just fall.
Just off the cliff. Can you get them to slide into the spikes on the walls?
Yes.
Love it.
It's a really funny game. Like, it's so unique in that way. And I think that's what this game really brings to the table, is they really took the conscious gameplay decision to be like, we want players to do ridiculous things to kill people in this game. And you really can. The only mechanic I didn't really mess with that much is the stealth mechanic. And stealth lets you unlock doors to access secret areas in the level. And you can also sneak up behind enemies and perform like insta-kill backstab attacks. Stealth seems fun, but I had way more fun just, comically killing enemies in like an Abbott and Costello movie. That was more fun for me.
You don't want to do the stealth archer run that all my Skyrim runs turn into. I'm like, this time I'm going to carry a hammer and I'm going to hit stuff with it. And then it's like, by the end, I'm just stealth archer.
Oh, yeah. Or in Fallout, it's the same thing. You just become like a sniper with sneak. Yeah, it's I didn't do that. I was really spending my time just like leading people. Like, I'd had all the enemies in the room to follow me and I just kick them individually into different places. And also you can kick them into each other. So it's more funny stuff I'll explain, but it's really good. The only real annoying part about gameplay that stands out to me is there's this weird NPC escort management tasks that the game is kind of putting on you a lot more than it should. Leanna is one of the main NPCs, and anytime she's on screen, she'll have a health bar, and the game is essentially in escort mode, which is like a big boo from me. I think you right. Escort missions are the worst. I think we can all agree.
Yeah,
as
escort missions
gamers.
are bad. Unless the only way an escort mission is good is if I'm not actually responsible for the person or thing I'm escorting, and that person or thing I'm escorting is like combat effective. I'm thinking of like Elizabeth in BioShock Infinite, where the whole game is an escort mission, kind of, but not really.
Yeah, and in that sense, it is not the same in Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. She can die. She does try to help you fight, but there were multiple times in the game where a powerful enemy would appear, and it would just go straight for Leanna, and it would kill her before I could even act or do anything, and I'd have to reload my save. There's a specific moment where there's this Paukai, which is like a dragon in this universe, that comes down, and it would always attack Leanna and not attack me. And I had to like figure out how to get its aggro, but I had to reload the save like 3 or 4 times to get it to work. It was super frustrating.
Dang. Do you lose if she dies, or is she just gone forever?
Oh, you lose. It just asks you to reload the save. Like it's just like if you died. State. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. And there's another thing I forgot to put in the notes here. There's the other frustrating aspect of the gameplay is there are small enemies like spiders and goblins, and the small enemies are kind of hard to hit. Just the nature of like how their hitboxes are made. And I don't know if that was like a conscious decision. It probably was by the developer to make some challenge happen, but it's too small. Like it feels like there was so many times where I was, thinking I was hitting and I just missed. And it's like, that's lame. It's not fun. Like you said, it's just not fun. There is another fun aspect of the gameplay though. And that is all the NPCs are set to like beeline towards you in a very defined path. So if you can find like a funnel point where they're going to come at you, like stairs is a great example. You can just repetitively keep kicking NPCs down the stairs until they die, which 10 out of 10 is very fun. And I recommend it because it's just the ragdoll physics are just so huge in this game. It's so fun.
Just this is Sparta like over and over again.
You really do. You Leonidas people until they die, just over and over and over again. There are neat aspects of the game too, where you can kind of do these side mini activities. There's a lot of secret areas to find, which I think we can all agree. It's very doomy in that way. It's like you found a secret area and it like tells you found it and there's all these items there. And there's magic items there too. So it does give you that like Indiana Jones feeling of like, I found a legitimate treasure, like scrolls of Fireball, for example. There's cool. Even a forge. There's actually multiple forges throughout the map that if you have like a gold bar, it has you go through the whole process of smelting a weapon and making it. So you would put the bar into the bucket. You'd wheel that over to the fire. You'd grab like a wire, like a weaved basket and throw it in the fire to make the fire bigger. Use the bellows to melt the bar, move the bar, pour it into a mold, pour water over the mold, take the mold, hammer it, and then put like a handle on it. It's like a whole process, but that makes like a special sword in the game for you. I think it's called the Earthfire Sword, and it looks really cool. Nice. I cheated and gave it to myself because it was when I was in the hotel when I found it. So, and I didn't have a gold bar, so I just gave it to myself, but very fun. The plot in the game. So I kind of knew going into this, Might and Magic is a big series, right? There's Might and Magic, which are the original RPGs. Heroes of Might and Magic, which is what I'm more familiar with. Like I played Heroes of Might and Magic 2 on Game Boy Color as a kid and I loved it. And I actually still own the game too. It's a great game. Dark Messiah takes place after the events of Heroes of Might and Magic 5, which is a PC game that came out in 2006.
Okay.
Obviously, there's going to be spoilers here. So if you care about that kind of thing from this game that's from 2006, I'm going to now pause for 5 seconds. And then that gives you time to figure it out. So, okay, here we go. I'm pausing for 5 seconds. All right, if you're still here, that means you want the spoilers. Here we go.
I want the spoilers, Mike. What if I just left right here? What if I had stopped and left and you?
I would respect it. I would have just been on my own, and I would have respected it.
No spoilers for me, please.
Yeah, Tyler cares. He doesn't want to. So, All right, here's the TLDR version. There is a prophecy in this fantasy world of a half demon, half human child that is destined to free the demons that were imprisoned by a powerful wizard in a previous war. You play Sereth, a young man who was raised by a wizard and who, as a child, has a mysterious past. Spoilers, you're the Dark Messiah, okay? That's pretty much the whole... It's pretty obvious, right? Your wizard guardian, Fenrig, puts a demon spirit named Xana into you to guide you. She's sort of like a satanic Cortana, in a way.
Okay, sure.
Like she's in your head. She's hella evil. She's a succubus, essentially. Xana is. Leanna, the aforementioned PC you have to escort that's really annoying, is like the good character. And she's like the last of a family of like good beings or whatever, right? And Xana gives you sweet demon powers, which is pretty tempting. But then you have to make the choice. Like, do you want to keep Xana or do you want to side with Leanna? Throughout the story, there's like an evil wizard named Arantir, and he takes the Skull of Shadows to a place to free your demon father. The story is fun. Like, it has you going to different places, and the scenery changes are cool. But essentially, it's like side with Xana and be evil, side with Leanna and be good. There's some other choices in the game, too. Like, Leanna at one point gets captured, and it's your choice to free her. If you don't free her, because you can just leave her in this spider pit, she comes back as a lich and tries to kill you.
Oh,
Leanna.
dang.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So there's there's 4 possible endings to the game based on who you sided with, who you saved, and then if you want to let your dad out of prison, essentially. Like, because that's pretty much it. I haven't seen these endings yet because I haven't beaten the game. Obviously, I'm going to try to go for the good ending. What do I look like, a monster? I did already save Leanna. I did that in my previous...
So are you locked into the good ending here?
Actually, no. I saved her in the cheat ending. In the cheat game I played at the hotel. So I need to make a choice, I think. But There's also some stuff like I didn't fill in because I just skipped a whole chapter almost of the story. So I need to go. I really want to play this game fully, obviously. That's the story. I'm going to stop here for a second because I realized I didn't put any notes in here on the multiplayer because there was multiplayer in this game. From what I understand, it was like an objective-based Battlefield-style multiplayer in this game. I didn't play it because I honestly don't think it's active still.
There's probably nobody online anymore.
Yeah, so I don't even think I could experience it, which is why I didn't even try. If I'm wrong, and you are listening to this right now in the year 2023, and you're like, Michael, that's right, you're using my full name because you're mad at me. You messed up, and there is a multiplayer community in Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Send us an email at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. Tell me why I'm wrong. I do want to know. The multiplayer is actually a separate download. I didn't even download it. On PC, it's like 2 games in the Steam library. It's the single player and the multiplayer.
Oh, it's like all the Call of Duty games, like early Call of Duty games were separate.
Yeah, it's like that. So I didn't even give it a try. Maybe that's my bad, I just didn't even think I didn't want to make Tyler play it either. I don't want to make you do anything you don't want to do, Tyler. So I'm not going to do that. But
no, thank you. We can check and see how many people have played it on Steam. I'm going to go check. You
check it for me. Just let me know because watch is like 2,000 people still playing it, and I just completely whiffed this part. But that's fine. So that's my reasoning for not playing the multiplayer. I do know it exists. Maybe we play it as a podcast. Maybe if there's enough people that own the game. It is cheap, and it goes on sale often. So maybe we can do that.
There is one person playing as we speak. The 24-hour peak is 2.
Okay, so I think I made the right choice, is what you're telling me.
The all-time peak, 16 years ago. How many do you think was the maximum number of people? This is on Steam, so this game was probably not released on Steam in its early days. It was probably in 2006. It probably wouldn't have been on Steam right away because Steam was just not as cool as it is now. How many people do you think played this game at the all-time high on Steam's peak 16 years ago?
3,000?
Oh, you're very optimistic.
Oh no, how much is it?
250.
Oh wow,
that's the maximum number of people this game has ever seen on Steam. So I don't know if that's a separate player count from anywhere else this game might have been released. It also doesn't count Xbox 360. But 250 people is the max this game has ever seen at one time on Steam. So you probably made the right call.
Okay, I think I made the right call. I take it all back. Don't send me an email. We just found the numbers. Don't do it. Send us an email about other things, about like how your day is going. We care about that. All right, development. Let's talk about that for a bit. So I want to preface this section of the episode by saying that almost all of our development facts, in fact, I'm just going to say all of them, are coming from an amazing documentary made by NoClip on YouTube about Arkane Studios. So for people out there that are like, they just watch YouTube videos and do episodes. Yeah, we did for this one because I have scoured the internet and there is nothing I could tell. Like I was looking for like an article about the making of Dark Messiah. Nope, not there. Does not exist from what I can tell. Maybe I missed something, but if you want to go fact check me, go for it. But everything I'm about to mention is in that Arkane Studios documentary by NoClip. Check that documentary out. It's an hour and 20 minutes long. It's a really good doc, and they go through the whole timeline of Arkane games. So check it out.
Love it.
This documentary is actually what introduced me to the game, too. When I mentioned earlier, like, why I played this, I was just blown away when I watched this documentary on YouTube like a year ago, because in the year 2006, I graduated high school. I completely missed this game's release, even though it was right up my alley of games I was playing. Like, it's like this game is kind of trying to be medieval Half-Life 2 in a way with how you're interacting with your environment. So I just completely missed it. So that's why I wanted to play it. So as we said before, Dark Messiah was developed by Arkane Studios, but it was not necessarily something developers at Arkane wanted or had in mind, because Arkane actually released a game in 2002 called Arx Fatalis, and that game was open-ended. It was a first-person action RPG. It was non-linear, where there was no dialogue really, and it was entirely dependent on player choice, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And this is actually a game that's become a sort of cult classic in and of itself over time. And it's honestly something we should cover down the road. Like, this is a game that I would probably play for the podcast down the road, Arx Fatalis.
I would love to hear about it. That's a game that I heard about a lot in magazines around that time, but I really don't know anything about it and never played it. I've just seen that name a lot.
Yeah, and I didn't know much about it either, which is why I didn't cover it, because I chose Dark Messiah of Might and Magic because I played Heroes of Might and Magic games as a kid, and it seemed to have like an easier barrier to entry, because Arx Fatalis is it's set. I may be butchering something here because I'm going completely off the script here, but Arx Fatalis is a game about humans, dwarves, elves, all these fantasy creatures moving underground because the sun disappears in the world. And so it's entirely takes place in like an underground dungeon, and it's got strong Ultima vibes to it, like early Ultima games, not online, but like actual Ultima dungeon crawler games. Nice. And that's kind of a genre that I don't have a lot of experience with, but I would like to know more about. So
yeah, me too. I really wish that I had like an Ultima game to play on like my Apple II way back in the day when I was messing around with my Apple II.
Yeah, there's a lot of these older fantasy games that I really, as a person now that also plays Dungeons and Dragons, that would like really have been a big influence on me as a kid if I'd have played them. Mm-hmm. And a little hint to a very special episode next week, we're going to talk a little about another fantasy game that was kind of big, but more on the MMO scene. So get ready for that.
Yeah.
We also have a guest. Ooh, okay.
Oh,
that's
boy.
all I'm saying. So Arx Fatalis came out, and while it's a hit now, it didn't really do very well financially. And in fact, Arkane Studios almost went under. They were at the point that they had to find a publisher to publish the sequel, which was then Arx Fatalis 2, but there wasn't really a lot of interest. And what happened is Ubisoft agreed to help them out as long as they agreed to use a different IP. This situation actually got so dire that Arkane was actually still in talks with Bethesda, and Bethesda was interested in actually doing Arx Fatalis 2, which is something that like the head of Arkane talks about as being something they really wanted. But they ended up going and signing with Ubisoft because they needed money now. Like, it was that dire. If they didn't do that, they would have gone under. So that's how Arx Fatalis 2 becomes Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. And The team really focused on the Looking Glass Studios idea of having multiple solutions to an encounter. And this is why you could use stealth, or you could use physics or combat or magic, etc., whatever you wanted to fight enemies. And the source engine actually comes from Arkane befriending people at Valve. Like, people from Valve came to their booth and they just talked it over. And because they talked about how much they like mutual respect for two companies. And they're like, well, instead of building our own engine like we did with Arx Fatalis 1, let's just use the source engine. And that's how they kind of jumped on with Source.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I love the idea that all these, like, because all these companies knew each other at the time, right? And they're all kind of influenced by one another. Like, this game would not exist without the Source engine and without Looking Glass Studios games. So that's a really cool idea to me, that they're all have this sharing, this melting pot of all their games going together. Now, the idea of spikes in levels everywhere, as I mentioned before, in the documentary, the lead level designer, Christoph Carrier, said, put spikes everywhere, like late in development, because they realized how fun that was. They also realized, like, the whole NPC, like, monsters, enemies slipping on the ice traps, completely unintentional, not planned. I just knocked something off my desk. I was so excited. Like, not planned. And they actually found it one day. They were all like laughing. And then one of the people was like, yeah, I got up to see what was going on. And they all discovered that the ice trap makes it so enemies just slide off the edge of the cliffs on the orc level, like the orc cliff level. And they're like, well, it's now a gameplay mechanic because this is so funny. We're not taking it out of the game. And I just kind of love that way they developed that kind of thing. There really isn't any more on the development other than that. I like I said, I looked around for articles, but there was just not a lot out there. And I think this is why it's kind of a forgotten game, is people remember it for this funny slapsticky nature of it. But it's kind of just gone to the wayside. There's no more plans as far as I know. We'll talk about it a little later, but there's no real plans for Dark Messiah, Might and Magic 2. And Arx Fatalis is another one of those games that's kind of been like forgotten as well. Xbox 360 though, let's talk about that for a bit before we like kind of talk about the legacy.
52 out of 100 on Metacritic, Xbox 360 version.
Yeah, so you mentioned having technical errors to it. I didn't see anything about that. The big thing I saw with Dark Messiah of Might and Magic Elements is Dark Messiah of Might and Magic Elements makes pretty drastic changes. So they removed the open-ended multi-class system. Like in the PC version of the game, you have this skill tree, right? And you can pick multiple skills and mix and match. So you could have some combat skills, but also pick some magic skills, which is what I did. I have like mostly combat, but I also have charm and heal because, like I said, those spells are like super powerful, right?
Mm-hmm.
They completely removed that open-ended system and make you choose a class.
Oh, really? That seems strange.
Yeah, so you have to choose between like a wizard, a thief, a warrior. And that just kind of completely ruins, I mean, it's a really bad pun. The magic of the game is gone because the whole point of it was like, how do I solve my own problems with what I've built with this character, right? However I want to do that. And you just took away the freedom aspect and funneled players into like 4 or 5 different niches. So that kind of defeats the whole point of the game. And that's why this was really torn apart, not only by people who had played the game on PC and been like, what did you do? Because people were excited, you know? I mean, it's an Xbox 360 version. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
But just could not match the open-ended, like the more open nature of character design and character leveling that the PC version had. So that was really the big issue. I'm wondering if there were technical issues. I know it's a port. Like, I don't believe Arkane made the port. Do you want to look that up for me? Could you look up who made Dark Messiah of Might and Magic Elements? I want to say it was a third-party developer that made like the 360 port of it, because that was pretty common at the time too. Like, it wasn't. The company would probably move on to the next game. They weren't going to be the ones that made the console
Ubisoft
version.
did the port. Ubisoft Hennessy? I don't know how to say that.
Yeah. So
name.
It was like, it was a big corporate port. You know what I mean? That's what it was.
In France, they did the thing. So I wonder if there were like technical reasons they were like, we have to limit this a little bit, or if the people who were porting it were like, you know what, I can do a better job of making a game. We're going to limit this.
Yeah, I might This is one of those games, though, that is probably so cheap on the internet that I would get it because I know it's lackluster. You know me. I love a good bad game, Tyler. I have Superman 64. I'm not afraid, okay? So that's kind of something I would consider collecting, a version of this game that's possibly very terrible. Also, it might be available to purchase on the Xbox Live store currently. I didn't look into that. It could be there.
Maybe.
Dark Messiah, Might and Magic Elements. So the legacy here, it's just kind of a shame. This game kind of just died away, right? The game has cult classic status now, as I said before, and there are still people making like online long plays. Because I look at YouTube and I definitely set the filters to like new videos, and there's people that are doing full runs of this game still on like the hardest difficulty and putting it out on YouTube, and people are watching it. Like, but I do think, and you should tell me if you agree with me or not, Tyler, because I could be wrong here. In an age of open world fantasy games, you got your Elder Scrolls, you got your Witcher, Dragon Age. I think it's pretty easy for a game like this to get swept under the rug.
Yeah, I agree. This is $20 on the Xbox store. You can buy it.
I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I don't think it's worth it. I think it would be better for you to get the PC game on sale. That's the best. That's the Mike Coletta certified best way to play this game is on your PC for cheap. Go to Good Old Games or whatever. Now, I do hope they give this game another chance. I feel like there's some more stories you could tell in the Might and Magic universe, definitely. And a first-person shooter RPG, and it's like to some extent an immersive sim like this one, is a great way to tell stories. This is kind of going for like BioShock also. This is like a medieval BioShock in a way. And Arkane is no longer with Ubisoft. They left in 2015. So if someone did take over the franchise, it would be through Ubisoft because they own the rights to Might and Magic. And I did see an article it was in Dutch. I had to use Google Translate. It was from gamer.nl, but talking about possibly doing something with Might and Magic. And I got really excited. And then I saw that this article was from August 15th, 2012. So that's 11 years ago. So I think it's pretty safe to say Dark Messiah of Might and Magic is not coming back. I certainly would want it to, but what do you think, Tyler? Is there room in this vast world of open-ended video games like Skyrim and the idea that you have a fantasy world and you can explore it for like hours and hours and hours? Is there room for a linear RPG fantasy game like this?
So my thoughts are that I think this game does live on, not as a Might and Magic thing, which is just sort of the IP. It was already going to be a different game before it was a Might and Magic game. I think this game lives on in Arkane's later games, especially like the Dishonored series. I know it's not like the same setting or anything like that because I don't think those are as medieval. I think those are more. I'm going to show I haven't played those games, even though I know they're great. But I think it's like Victorian times.
It is. It's like steampunky. And here's a fun part. I didn't play those games either, and I feel like such a loser.
Me too.
I don't think she'd care if I said this. My fiance does improv. And when the game came out, they had a big event in Seattle and she like improvised as one of the characters in the game. I've never played the game in my entire life.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. I feel like I goofed.
Yeah.
And my fiance's like keeps asking me, have you played it yet? I'm like, no. I'm like, so sorry. I know you were a character in it live, but I just didn't. I'm sorry about that.
I think this style of like open-ended, but sort of still linear storytelling, I think it lives on in the Dishonored series. So while the Might and Magic series may be dead, or at least the Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, I think the people that want that style of game get it from Dishonored. I think the Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, some sub-brand of Might and Magic, maybe people just don't care about it. I don't think they need to make another one.
Okay, that's a real. I'm glad this is why I asked you, Tyler, because I didn't even think about comparing it to Dishonored, and I guess in reality, it's also very similar to another game that I feel like a fool I've never played, and that is Thief, the original Thief.
Oh yeah,
and that's a very big game in this kind of same vein where you can do all sorts of things to get around the level and take off the lights and stuff like that to sneak around. So I will say too, if you are interested in Might and Magic as a franchise, that is definitely something I've put on our list of things to cover, both Heroes of Might and Magic, which I'm more familiar with, and then actual Might and Magic, the old RPGs. So that's something we can kind of talk about. But as far as other spiritual successors to this, I did, while I was searching for articles, find an article in PC Gamer about a game called Shady Knight. that is taking this concept of kicking enemies off the ledge and adding a grappling hook to it. And that's like a new,
love it.
It's like an indie game. So there is still life in this kind of mechanic of silly, I guess, slapstick comedy fighting. That's probably the best way to put it, I think, is slapstick comedy fighting. Definitely take a look at that kind of game if you're interested. And like Tyler said, look at Dishonored. Those are the kind of games I think we need to talk about. But yeah, in a way, I just think I love ragdoll physics. I'm still a fan. Remember when that was all the rage? Ragdoll physics?
Me too, yeah. I also love ragdoll physics. Loved it in, Unreal Tournament 2004, 2003 with the ragdoll. Loved it. Half-Life, oh man, still. I mean, games have it still, but it's just not quite as funny as it used to be.
Yeah, it was so funny. I can't stress enough. If you like that kind of thing, you need to play this game because it is very, very funny how you can like kill these different enemies. And I also forgot to mention the NPCs. If they get really wounded, they run away from you, which is just so heartbreaking. But you still don't feel bad kicking them into spikes because they just move slower, so it's easier to kick them in. All right, Tyler, what you been playing?
Well, I'm still working on the World of Warcraft. I have not completed the raid on normal mode yet, but I have completed it on Raid Finder. So I think I'm of a high enough level. I just need to get a group of people and do it, or start doing pickup groups for it. Because I really want to finish the raid on normal and maybe on heroic as well, if our guild is still running it on heroic once I feel good enough to do that. Otherwise, I haven't really been playing anything else. I am excited to pick up Metroid Prime Remastered. I really want to get a physical copy of that game.
Me too.
Because I hear that it is just 10 out of 10, a great remaster of a great game. And it's been a long time since I played Metroid Prime, and I would love to play it again with like a more modern control set. I know you've been able to do that for a long time with like Prime Hack on PC and stuff like that, but this is a cool official way to play it on a Switch. I'm very excited.
Nice. Yeah. Is that out yet? It's out soon, I think. The physical copies? It might be this week.
Yeah, I think physical copies hit store shelves pretty soon. You've been able to download it since last week or 2 weeks ago. Whenever it came out, they just sort of shadow dropped it and they were like, and it's available now. But if you want a physical copy, I think you had to wait a little while.
Yeah, I want a physical copy too. That's kind of what I'm doing with all Switch games. So this week I've been, you inspired me, Tyler. Did you know you're an inspiration?
Oh.
I played and beat, because it only took me like 2 or 3 hours, Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins.
Oh yeah, that game is fun.
It is so fun. It holds up so well. I played it on the Switch emulator. It was a great time. Man, that last castle though, like Wario's castle, is hard because there's no checkpoints. So I made my own. I cheated and used suspend points in the emulator, but wow. That would be really... I beat my head against the wall for a good, 10 tries before I was like, Mike, there's suspend points. Why are you doing this? And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what's tough is if you get a game over, you lose all the coins and you have to go beat all the bosses again.
Yeah. It gets kind of tough. Also, I had an easy time with most levels, but Wario's Castle... And then the last level of the Space Land is very difficult.
Those boss were the two. Is hard to actually it feels bugged. That last boss does.
Yeah, the hitbox is not friendly. You lose your Mario size if you're just barely off and you shrink down or die. So it was pretty tough, but I really enjoyed it. And it was the game I was thinking of on Game Boy from my childhood because I remember the giant mechanical Mario. That's one of the big things I remember, but that game is so good to the point where we might want to just cover that in the next coming weeks.
I love that game. Great. And the space boss that is so hard is actually the last boss of the first game too.
Oh, really? Same guy?
Yep. Tatanga.
Glad for them to come back and have another game. That's good.
Yeah.
Bring them on back. So I played that, and then I meant to play some Pokemon. I did do some gym stuff. I've really slowed down on Pokemon Violet though. It's not the game's fault. It's just kind of my mood. I'm not really in the mood for it. And now that I saw that Metroid Prime remaster release, I'm getting that. And if that comes in the mail, I'm just going to play that, obviously.
Yep.
Because I really want to play that game. Because I never played it on GameCube, even though I own it on GameCube.
It is a classic, man. One of my favorite games of all time. Absolutely best game on GameCube, no doubt.
Yeah, see? Big sell here from you. And you're the inspiration that made me play Super Mario Land 2. So now I got to do it. The last game I played, obviously I've been playing Dark Messiah of Might and Magic all week. That's like the big one. That's what I spent most of my time with. But the other game I just started using the emulator on my flight back, Legend of Zelda, Minish Cap. It's on the Game Boy Advanced emulator, and I never played it. And golly, it's so much fun. I'm having a good time. I never
finished it.
Shrinking down.
That's what I want to come back to.
Yeah, it's very good. It's on there. It's really great. I'm enjoying it. I just beat the first dungeon while I was on the flight, so it was very relaxing. It's just good to play a little top-down Zelda every once in a while. It feels good. That's what I've been playing, but let's read a couple emails. Want to read a couple emails?
Sure.
This one was actually meant for the mailbag before Valentine's Day, and we never got around to it. So we're going to do it right now, and we just want to pretend that everyone... It's Valentine's Day, everyone. Let's just all pretend, okay? This is from Dave. I'm going to read it, okay? Greetings, gents. Valentine's Day is on the way, so I have a two-part question. From games you've played recently, I'll leave the definition of recently to you. What video game character are you asking to be your Valentine? And what video game locale is the hotspot for your Valentine's Day date? This is such a good question.
I'm going to go with the first thing that comes to my head. Jesse from the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And we're going to... what's the name of the beach in the... coast in Final Fantasy VII? Dang it, I can't remember. It's like Golden Coast or something. I'm going to Google it now.
You know what? This has been on my mind because I have been playing some Stardew Valley recently.
Costa del Sol. That's what it's called.
Costa del Sol? Nice.
Yeah. What about you, Mike?
I am going to, and this is kind of a cheat answer because I'm currently trying to romance Emily in Stardew Valley. That's what I'm trying to romance. She got blue hair. I'm going to break Clint's heart. No big deal. And... I would take her to Ginger Island, which is the tropical island in Stardew Valley. That sounds nice. My other thought was to go to the Animal Crossing island in New Horizons as like a little tropical vacation locale. But I'm realizing how that could backfire, because if you're on a date and it didn't go well, then you're stuck on an island.
Ooh, that doesn't sound great.
But the one from Stardew is like just a boat right away. You know, you can do it in like minutes. It's not a big deal. So
yeah.
I'm going to say Stardew Valley because I've had that on my brain for a while. It's also taken me a long time to romance anyone in that game. I kind of forgot because I've been so into innovation on the farm. You know, I've been married to my work, Tyler. So I'm trying to say.
I understand.
Yeah, I've kind of got distracted. But that's a great question, Dave. Thank you for the email. And thank you for the Valentine's Day mailbag episode. Sorry we missed it. They sent it out right after we recorded. I felt super bad because I was like, and we missed it last week because we got so caught up in Mario and Donkey Kong and Sonic. Just too caught up in it. Do you want to read Ben's email?
I do want to read Ben's email. Ben, the subject line here is, I've been to Silverwood. Hey, Tyler and Mike, in episode 141, you talked about the Play Choice 10 and mentioned Silverwood had one. Then you asked us to email if we had been. So here it is. I've been. If you go back, stop at Melt's Extreme Grilled Cheese in Coeur d'Alene. It will change your life. I love that somebody else has been to Silverwood besides just me and you. And I also love the recommendation for a grilled cheese in Coeur d'Alene. That sounds amazing.
Also, we should do a correction. I have never been to Silverwood.
You've never been to Silverwood?
Yeah, this was what spawned it. Remember, is the episode we talked about. I've never been before, and I've
this must
always
have been
wanted
my reaction
to go.
then too.
It was, and I feel terrible about it. But I am looking right now at the Wikipedia page for the Play Choice 10, and it looks dope. And I hope it's still there. The Play Choice 10.
I don't think it is. Because I think I've been there, well, I say relatively recently. I think the last time I went was actually over a decade ago, but I don't think it was there then.
I'm looking to see how much a whole Play Choice 10 would cost, how much this arcade machine would cost, and I can't find any sort of like pricing on it, but this is also very much a old classic, arcade machine. So that's great though. Thank you, Ben, for reaching out. You know, if you're listening and you find something from an old episode, like a real old, bring it up. Send us an email. I'm still interested. We want to know. And now I still want to go to Silverwood too. Although,
we got to figure out a way to get you to Silverwood.
That grilled cheese place more. You know what I mean? That's what I really want.
We'll stop there on the way to Silverwood and the way back.
Righty. Well, I think that's it for the day. Tyler, do you want to do the plugs? Is this kind of putting it on you? I always do the plugs. I feel like I take it over.
I'll do the plugs. If you want to send us an email, you can email us, codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, codexpodcast.net. Is it podcast? Oh, man.
Yeah, that was right. That was right. You nailed it.
Codexpodcast.net. We have a little form there you can fill out. You can also find our Trello boards there of the games that we're playing. We keep them mostly up to date. I am on Twitter at SneakerElf, ELPH. Mike is on Twitter at MeColetta. You can follow us both, and we have a Discord, which is linked at the top of Mike's profile on Twitter, but not mine, which is kind of strange and probably should be. You can join our Discord and hang out with us and all the lovely people on our Discord.
That was great. It was really fun having you do the plugs once. I feel like I always take it over. You know what I mean? The whole time.
I don't mind, but I thank you for setting such a good example for how to do it, because I wouldn't have been able to do it as smoothly as I did.
Well,
and it wasn't even that smooth. But
first try. That's what we're going to say.
First try. Nailed it.
All right. Well, you want to say bye to everybody too?
No, you have to say goodbye to everybody.
Oh, that's right. Bye, everybody.